Hi, this is Aditi from Raising World Children, and today with us we have Tory Christie. She is a scientist and an author. She writes beautiful children's books. Hi, Tory.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm really happy to be here.
I just love your character, Curious McCarthy, that you have created. And you also write non-fiction books for kids, which is so interesting to me because my son is crazy about science. And when I came across your books, I was like, I need to have her on Raising World Children to learn more about how to make science more engaging for kids.
Great, yep. Great, yep, I'm glad to talk about it. It was a fun series of books to work on, so I welcome your question.
Yes, so firstly, let's start off with what is something that you see that is most engaging to kids in science? What have you found that they find interesting?
Yeah, there's quite a few things. So I do school visits too, so I get to engage with the kids, and I have kids of my own. So one of the biggest things is get them involved, hands-on activities. And, you know, we all know this because there are certain things that are really popular right now with kids, one of which is slime. So, you know, a lot of kids try different recipes for slime, and they love to get their hands dirty and play with it. And there's another thing is there's no rules with slime. And so that's one of the things that makes it fun for kids. I think that sometimes rules can hinder their creativity. And I might say something a little crazy here to some scientists, but I don't think we should be teaching the scientific method to really small children because it just restricts them.
Yes.
And if you think about the way scientists or early scientists discovered things, they tinkered, they played around with things, and that's one thing that I would really like to stress, you know, the family is just have fun with it.
Wonderful. And that is something I definitely encourage with my kids is just go crazy with whatever they're doing. My husband often sees slime stuck somewhere and he's like, why do you keep giving this to him? And I'm like, you know what? It's fine. We clean up the mess, so we just throw it away. It's fine. We'll call it donation to science.
Yeah. There you go, donation to science. I like that.
Because the kids do weird stuff with it. Like I found it stuck in my blanket, and even Legos. My son made his own fidget spinner with Legos.
Oh.
So because I wouldn't buy him one, so he finally had to figure out how to make one for himself. So it's so wonderful when you have parents who want to encourage their kids to be curious. And that is something that I would love to ask you as someone who encourages kids is how do you keep the curiosity up? Because I think that is something that over time wanes because of so much educational pressure. So what would you suggest about
Well, first of all, you know, the pressure, that's hard to deal with. We don't want to pressure our kids any more than we need to. But one way is to think about how you can bring science into the everyday. So think about when you cook, why does the meat turn brown, or why does the potato get soft, or just some easy things like that, and be curious yourself as a parent, and bring that curiosity and have fun with your kids. The kids can do a lot in the kitchen and can figure out a lot of chemistry that way. And one of my books is called Family Chemistry.
Wow.
So it's a fun book that goes through all the kind of chemistry you can do in the kitchen with bases and acids and that kind of thing. And that kind of leads to another thing as well. Story. Story is a fun way to keep yourself curious and to bring some fun into the science. And that's part of the reason why I wrote this series, because it's really kind of a missing. I hope my cat isn't being as loud.
It's fine. She's being curious.
Curious the cat. So anyway, just bring story into read a book first, and sometimes that'll lead to questions, and then you can go into the kitchen or wherever and make slime or make Play-Doh or go outside and explore anything that book might lead you to are great jumping off point to go and explore something else.
That's wonderful. And even the great outdoors, it is wonderful to take kids outside and just explore. I think we have too many of planned activities these days. And I think that's something that I personally feel that, maybe we should just not do any, just head out, be impromptu with your trips and just check out what's happening with the trees and when the leaves fall and all those good stuff and the nature. And it's wonderful when I see in schools here, because in India it's more about books. It's all about the books. It's in schools here, especially in preschools and kindergarten, and even at my son is still in first grade, but it's about hands-on learning, which I totally love. I never had that as a child, and I am learning with my son, and I find that it is so rewarding, because the kids really imbibe what they're learning. It is not just that they read it and then they write it down and then they forget about it.
Right.
That's wonderful. So, and what are other things that you would suggest to parents to make sure the kids know about in terms of resources?
Oh boy, that's a good one. I do see, this is what I do a lot for my real job as a scientist, my day job. I work on water quality, and so water quality issues are really important, and you see every day the impact of what we do on the water quality, and I'm not really prepared to answer this question, so I don't know what we can do with kids in that respect, but just thinking about your own impact on the environment and sharing that with your kids. Sometimes we don't always share what we're thinking, and we don't always share, when you hear something on the news, like, they're building a new wastewater treatment plant, or there's plastics in the ocean, or all those stories that are on the news right now. Engage your kids, talk to them about it, and talk about what you do every day in your home that can lead to problems like those. And one of the big things, I mentioned plastics in the ocean. There's a really nice children's book about how these plastics have formed an island in the Pacific Ocean. There's many of them. And then so what I did is look up some statistics to share with the kids about how much water it takes to make a plastic water bottle. So you're using a lot more water to make that plastic bottle than is actually inside of it. So, just having, I'm not saying, one is bad or anything like that, but having an understanding of what it takes and how that plastic gets in the ocean and that kind of thing is just one way to kind of link what you do every day for your kids.
Definitely broadening their horizons in terms of thinking about the bigger impact of every action that they have, I think just adds up, because I think it's called the butterfly effect, right? Where, that's in regard to time travel, I'm not sure. but I think it even applies to future, because what we're doing now is definitely affecting, or what has been done in the past is affecting us now and our environment. But that brings me to ask you something about the digital age, where there is so much information that is not necessarily true. So how do we teach our kids to figure out what is, how to understand that, because I feel a lot of parents also tend to just easily just forward stuff. They themselves don't empower themselves to go and research, take those few minutes to, find out that whether what I'm sharing is the truth or not. I think we should, as parents, also have the responsibility to teach the kids this, that everything needs to have a scientific basis, or has to have some sort of basis in reality.
Yeah, that's easy for us as scientists to know what's true and what's not, but the average parent and the average kid, they don't know. One thing I always do, I rarely forward things or share things like on Facebook, but when I do, I always click on the article and read it first. If it's important enough to share, I want to read the article. So many people don't do that. And if you just read through the article and understand who's publishing it and where it's coming from and some of the details, because a lot of times too, the headlines are written in a way that kind of exaggerate what is true and what we should really believe. So that's just one thing that I can think of.
Yes, definitely. Which brings me back to my son's. I think last month they did this homework assignment was opinion versus fact. Find out what is an opinion and find out what is a fact, and then figure things out. I think that would be a wonderful exercise to do with everyday topics for as a family. Look at news because at Raising All Children we make sure to share content which parents could read to their children and say that, hey, this is something that you might find interesting. Let's look at this and let's read it and let's think about what it is, whether it's an opinion or it's a fact, and let's talk about what is going on with the world. And I think if you take that time to process things yourself and empower your kids to do the same, I think that would make a huge difference.
That's a great idea. I just wrote it down because I think I'm going to play that game tonight, opinion or fact. And it'd be fun coming up with some funny opinions or facts.
Yes, and it was a great exercise by the school, and I found it very interesting and I wondered whether a lot of the parents do this, because even my mother's generation, I have to tell her again and again, I said, Mom, that's from WhatsApp. That is not the truth. That is not fact. That is, in fact, not at all true what you're sharing. Please stop sharing that.
Yeah, that can be funny.
Yes. And coming back to kids and what they love, what is, in your dealing with kids, what is some funny things that have happened with kids that have amused you, if you could share with us regarding their science minds?
Sure. I do some classroom visits and they're a lot of fun because you never know what kids are going to say. When you open it up to questions and answers, they ask all kinds of things that, maybe don't have anything to do with science. I have had kids tell me I don't look like a scientist. They say that all the time, actually. And then that leads me to, well, what does a scientist look like? And, well, I'm not wearing a lab coat. Or one classroom said, all scientists wear tennis shoes. You're not wearing tennis shoes. Like, okay, I didn't know that. And then I invite them to say, well, let's try to talk about this and think about it. What else do you think of when you think of a scientist? No, all scientists wear glasses. That's what they told me. And then I tell them a little bit what I do. I go outside into the environment and sample water quality. And I don't have to wear a lab coat or glasses or whatever. I sometimes wear a life jacket and maybe boots or, whatever. And they're like, oh, surprised. That doesn't sound like a scientist to me.
Yes.
I had one classroom, and this was a little older kid, so they were spot on with what they understood about science. But they didn't know, what a scientist looked like. So I started out and I started out by asking them to draw a picture of a scientist. And I went around and I took pictures of their pictures, and a lot of them looked like Albert Einstein. And then I read I don't know if you can see this. I read the first chapter of this book. It's a curious.
Yeah.
Okay. It's Curious McCarthy's Power of Observation. So it's all about observation.
Wonderful.
And there's a story in there, and it's based on kind of a true story of when I was in 4th grade. And so I shared that story with them about a little girl who didn't know she could be a scientist and how she realized she could. And after I shared that story, shared what I do, I said, now let's draw, turn over the sheet, let's draw a picture again. Now, what do you think a scientist might look like? And it was really, really great. So the little girls had drawn pictures of themselves as scientists, as opposed to, Albert Einstein or some other person with tennis shoes, a lab coat, and glasses, So it was a really great experiment, and the kids are so much fun to talk to and to understand and get to know.
Wonderful. That's I'm smiling like grinning because I love hearing kids' stories as a parent, and I've always enjoyed them. So I just wanted to ask you, what advice would you have for for parents whose kids aspire to be scientists? Like, what are some strengths that you would want them to develop, or those kind
this is kind of tough because I don't think that we necessarily value some of the things in school that create a good scientist. So it's not reading ability, it's not getting A's on every test. Kids who are really curious and kids who wonder how things work, they may not get the best grades in school, but those are the ones who are really driven to understand things. And those are the ones we really have to encourage and let them know that they're smart in their own way. And, if they're curious about the environment or how the vacuum cleaner works, or, how the fan on the ceiling works or anything like that, they're probably cut out to be in some kind of technical or science field. Yet, in school we don't always value that because it's whoever writes the neatest or, can get in the A reading group or things like that. So we really have to, build those kids up a little more and help them understand, that they have some real strength.
It's wonderful to hear, because I truly believe in that it is important to nurture a child's natural curiosity and natural strengths as well. Of course, reading, writing is of course important in its own sense.
Yeah.
But not completely the know-all of a person.
Yeah.
I feel today people give too much importance to that, and I think from ages they've done that. But I think it is most people who are achievers tend to give their own strengths importance. And,
right.
I think that's what
I do that too. Yes, I know. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
and sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to mention too, it's important for them to have role models, and it's becoming more common for women to be scientists, but a lot of girls don't have that, and a lot of moms don't know how to nurture that. And so I think that's really important. Get them involved in things where they will have role models, like, Girl Scouts, and Girl Scouts has a new STEM program now that's really great. The library has a lot of STEM programs, and even books can serve as a source of role models to girls. So look for books with scientists that look like your kids.
Wonderful. So who are your role models? Or who have your role models been?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm prepared to answer that question. Of course, I grew up not knowing any scientists, so I couldn't even really imagine myself as a scientist. And I had no female bosses in my science career. So that it's been a challenge for me, but through reading and men can be great role models too, and so I've discovered that I've had a lot of support from my colleagues. I don't know. I'll be better prepared to answer that one next time.
Oh, that's fine. You can probably give me the answer on Messenger whenever you think of it, and we can add it in our show notes.
Sure.
But thank you so much. This was so wonderful. And I'm so glad that you chose to come on our platform to talk about how to make science easy and help our kids to engage and be natural scientists in their own being. Thank you so much for having us. And everyone watching, please make sure to read Tory's books to your children, and make sure to check out her website, which is in our description, and follow the great content we have at raisingworldchildren.com every week consistently for you. Much love to all of you. Thanks, Tory.
Thanks for having me.